That's kind of pimping, huh? Maybe I can just... A witch pimp. Witches. Are they living, breathing, urban legends? Let's find out. Didn't we already figure out that witches are just Halloween costumes and things of horror movies and fantasy books? Well, that might be true too, but if you think they don't exist, you need to stick around and watch this one. The mountains are absolutely a magical place, and it's no wonder that witches are drawn to mountains, although a lot of mountain witchcraft, not to be confused with Escape from Witch Mountain or whatever that movie was, a lot of it is steeped in more of the African magic they practiced in the mountains for some reason. I'm going to take my jacket off, really enjoy the space around here. Let's take the camera off here and walk around. In Salem, there was Tituba, who was an African American who had been a slave and was charged with witchcraft. There's no way to completely separate African witchcraft from the witchcraft that is in America and really Europe. But so it gets very complicated, like I've said. The subject of witchcraft is so huge that there is no way I could ever cover it in one or even many episodes of this Legend Tripping channel. But the thing I do know to be true is it's made up of part ritual, part belief, part folklore, part tradition, part spirituality, and probably more. When I was in my early 20s, I dated a witch. I met her in Salem, and during that time, I became enthralled with the whole concept of witchcraft. I met many witches along the way. Some seemed genuine and some seemed like it was like more of a fashion accessory, more of an identity. Sort of like those musicians who don't really care that much about music or being a musician but want all the perks of being in a band. Well, witches can be similar, and guess what? Some are good at it and some aren't. Witches are all around us in modern times. And with so much anger in the U.S. and the world, it's no wonder witchcraft is on the rise and becoming more popular than ever. Because if you believe that energy is the constant that changes things in the world, you might believe that spells can affect that change, and therefore, you might turn to witchcraft. But isn't witchcraft evil, and aren't witches bad? It's very hard to talk about witchcraft without talking about pentagrams. And people call them pentagrams, pentangles, all that. And I'm going to break it down as simply as I possibly can from what I know. It originally was a Christian symbol. The 5 points were said to represent the 5 senses, and then it was also said that the 5 points were to represent the 5 wounds of Christ. Later it became adopted by neo-pagans or Wiccans, or some people say that the neo-pagans or Wiccans had it first. Here we go with all the controversy, and here comes a car. But you know, the pentagram's one of those things that it's like politics. You just never settle it, really. Traditionally, witches have been known as people who practice witchcraft, using magic spells and calling upon spirits for help or to bring about change. Early Christians perceived witches as evil beings. They made them out to be ugly, disgusting, and evil. The perfect foe for any decent Christian, right? Many witches were thought to be pagans doing the devil's work, while many were simply natural healers whose choice of profession was largely misunderstood. It's said that witchcraft predates the written word. The earliest records of a witch is in the Bible in the book of Samuel, thought to be written around 800 BC. King Saul looked for the witch of Endor to summon the dead prophet Samuel's spirit to help him defeat the Philistine army. The witch summoned Samuel's spirit. Samuel prophesied the death of Saul and his sons. The very next day, according to the Bible, Saul's sons died in the battle and Saul committed suicide. However, after that, the Bible wasn't so friendly to witches. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. During the mid-1400s, witch hysteria took hold in Europe. Between 1500 and 1660 AD, up to 80,000 suspected witches were put to death. Around 80% were women, thought to be evil. Germany had the highest witch execution rate, while Ireland had the lowest. This was called the Burning Times. Malleus Maleficarum, or Malleus Maleficarum, translated into The Hammer of Witches, was a book on how to identify, hunt, and interrogate witches. Most of the witches were made to confess by means of torture, and many were burned at the stake. The mass execution in the United States was in late 1692 in Salem, Massachusetts. On June 10th, one Bridget Bishop became the first accused witch to be put to death during the Salem witch trials when she was hanged at the Salem gallows. Ultimately, around 150 people were accused and 18 were put to death. And women weren't the only victims of the Salem witch trials. 6 men were also convicted and executed. Witches were not burned at the stake in the U.S., by the way, they were hung. Oddly enough, an article supposedly written by Benjamin Franklin about a witch trial in New Jersey was published in 1730 in the Pennsylvania Gazette. It basically made fun of witchcraft accusations. And soon after, witch mania died down quite a bit in the New World, and laws were passed to help protect people from being wrongly accused and convicted. It's pretty easy to say that witches were not treated fairly, and are still not today. There's so many misconceptions. So what is a witch? There seems to be a ton of misinformation and disagreement, especially in the pagan communities. Witchcraft has been around for ages. Wicca is a religion that was popularized in the 1950s, that probably got its start in the 30s, that incorporated the use of witchcraft. Not all witches are Wiccan, and not everybody who reads tarot cards are a witch, and this gets complicated. However, most witches agree that modern witchcraft considers Satanism to be the dark side of Christianity, rather than a branch of Wicca. The character of Satan does not exist in their deity. The main theme and Wiccan rule is harm none, do as thou wilt. Just wanted to get the Satan thing out of the way for a minute. But some witches practice different kinds of Wicca. In the same way that there are many versions of Christianity, Wicca, witchcraft, this can all get very complicated. I'll surely take a beating in the comments section if I get too deep into this. So what about black magic? The term is actually steeped in hoodoo, and just like mainstream witchcraft, evil magic, or black magic, is a many-splendored thing. There's black shamanism, voodoo, the left-hand path, and Satanism. Virtually all these versions in some way use evil spirits instead of positive forces to cast spells and create influence. Many Wiccans do not recognize black witches, black magic. Most witches believe that, generally speaking, magic isn't simply good or evil, that it's a tool. In any case, we might say that witches are living urban legends. From a legend tripper standpoint, witches are really an international treasure. Let's put evil witches, sorcery, and black magic aside for just a moment and concentrate on practical magic and modern-day Wiccans. The question we all have is, does it work? Some folks say that you need tons of training from witches with experience, and others say that simply performing a spell just means maybe setting up an intention and then conducting a ritual, be that lighting a candle or meditating in the bathtub or whatever to fulfill it. But to answer that question, I went to my longtime friend, and who also is a Poison fan, Sandra Mariah Wright. She's a Wiccan high priestess, and Sandra owns a events business, Spirit Beacon Psychic Fair and Mystical Marketplace, as well as jewelry and occult supply company Gallows Hill Witchery, and manages the largest annual psychic fair in the U.S., the Salem Psychic Fair and Witches Market.
So I think absolutely everybody has the power to work magic. So you don't necessarily have to do a lot of really intense study to make something happen. But if you are a true occultist, you do want to study. You do want to study the traditions that have been built, over decades and decades, or even go back further than that to actual source material from centuries gone by of magic, because it's been around for as long as there's been people exploring these mysteries. So yes, you can be a person who is a brand new beginner and hasn't done years of study, and you can do a spell, you can make magic happen. But if you're serious about it, then you actually would want to delve deeper into it so you understand the workings of it.
Witchcraft is magic is a tool, right?
Yes.
So maybe we should start there, because you made a very, very good description of that yesterday.
Thank you. So yeah, there really isn't black magic and white magic, although a lot of people would love it if it was that simple. But there's just magic, the same way that you can take a hammer and build a house with it, or you can take that same hammer and bash someone over the head with it and kill them. And it's not a good hammer or a bad hammer. It's all about the person wielding it. What are you looking to do with it? What is your intention? What are you using it for? Magic is a tool, and it's a tool that it can be unlocked, in many, many different ways. And everyone has access to that sort of part of themselves that's able to connect in that fashion.
Pentagram, the pentangle. Can you explain what that is and what it means in witchcraft, and what it means when people invert it? Okay, because that's always looked at as negative or evil. So, and do it in under 20 seconds. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Pentacle's controversial, I know, but it does have a really rich history. So it has come down through the ages as an incredible symbol. But the 5 points stand for the 5 elements. So earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. And and the circle can also be considered a circle of protection. So if you look at it almost like it's a person standing there with their arms and legs outstretched, and you draw that circle around, it's that boundary that keeps out all the bad stuff that you don't want and keeps in all the good stuff. So some people say that's the circle of, protection from the gods, or that's just the circle of protection that we draw when we actually create a ritual space, when we create a circle. And that's why witches wear this. They wear it as a sign of faith, but they wear it as a protective amulet as well, because that's the symbol. That's the nature of the symbol, is protection.
All right. So now we invert it, and then what?
Right. So when you have it upright, you are basically going from, when you draw it like this, you're drawing down from the earth point up to spirit. The spirit is the topmost point. So when you're drawing like that, you are basically sending up a prayer, like sending up energy up into, basically the idea of sending that sort of telegraphic message out to the gods or the spirits or whatever you're working with. But when you invert it, you are drawing down from spirit into matter. And so you are making manifest, you're making something happen. You're not asking for something to happen. You're basically making it happen. You're invoking your will to draw something from spirit into matter, down from spirit into earth, basically. So some people feel like that's like, whoa, you're sort of, I don't know, maybe a power trip they feel or something, but that's the use of the pentacle. That's like the actual way that the pentagram is used. And somehow it got sort of twisted up just the same way that they took the cross and inverted the cross and decided that that was evil and everything. The same thing happened with the pentacle. They decided that, if you see the pentacle upside down, it's evil. It's really not. It's a different use of it. And I understand that some people have sort of co-opted it and they've made that their symbol and they say, whatever that means. And I know that when you see that inverted, sometimes you see the goat of Mendes or you see Baphomet or whatever in that, because you've got the horns and the ears and the chin with the beard or what have you. And some people get, sort of freaked out by that. But even Baphomet is not an evil symbol. It's a symbol. There's a balance there. There's a whole history behind Baphomet that is not evil.
All right. So I won't hold it up anymore. I mean, we could talk and talk and talk. Do you have a store?
So I actually vend so that I don't have a brick and mortar. I run 2 stores in town, but they're not mine. But I actually vend. So I will do pop-ups and things, and I do online sales. So if people come onto my page, facebook.com/Salem Witch, that's my page. So if people come on there and I go live and I have all kinds of things, like I have a bunch of goodies over here right now that I'm getting ready to go live this Saturday. Lots of beautiful things, mostly stones and crystals and jewelry and fun stuff like that. So that's also part of that business is Spirit Beacon, Psychic Fair and Mystical Marketplace, which is psychic fair that I have done for the past 3 or 4 years, I want to say. But I also run the huge psychic fair in Salem that's like the longest running and largest in the world. So
pump your book for a second.
Oh yeah, Reading the Leaves. Hold on, let me get a copy. This is the hardcover. And this is the soft cover. These are both available wherever books are sold. You can get these on Amazon. If you want them signed, you would go to hexwitch.com and order there, because then we can custom autograph. And we have another one that we're working on right now. The next one is going to come out.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely.
The thing I do know to be true is witches are living, breathing urban legends. The religion is to be respected like any other religion or belief system. Never again the burning times.
Take care of each other and keep rock alive.